So most doctors are not asking their patients that question. That's how so many people end up on sleeping pills.
I'll feel challenged by it.
It is really powerful if you have a hard time falling asleep. A lot of people, first time, will fall asleep during it.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Make America Healthy, where our goal is to empower you, inspire you, and educate you with tools so you can take better care of your own physical and mental health. Today's show is all about sleep, and we are blessed by being joined by a doctor, uh, Dr. Barry Krakow, who is a sleep specialist and owns several sleep centers. He's a researcher, an educator, works with the National Board of Physicians and Surgeons, has written several books on sleep. And actually, I want to go and see him myself because he sounds like he is everything sleep. And we are also joined by a returning guest, Tara Youngblood from Sleepme, and she is a sleep coach and does a lot of work also around sleep. So, welcome everyone to Make America Healthy. Dr. Barry, I'd like to get started with you. How you got into this sleep specialty? I don't think probably I don't know, but maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, like sleep wasn't the big deal that it is today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your history with sleep.
Sure. Thank you for having me on the show. Good to be with you all. Um, my era began in 1988, working with a group of psychiatrists on developing a new non-drug treatment for chronic nightmares. It's called imagery rehearsal therapy. It's now the #1 non-drug treatment for chronic nightmares. And yet, in working with nightmare patients, particularly mental health patients, PTSD patients, it led me to a discovery in the 1990s that was very surprising. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm an internist. I'm a sleep doctor. And in the 1990s, these nightmare patients we were seeing, we were demonstrating much more complexity to their cases than we imagined. And we realized that their insomnia was also a part of the picture, but many of them also had sleep apnea. And this was mind blowing because in mental health, the view towards sleep problems is literally just focused on medication. In the field of psychiatry right now, even in mental health circles where they practice psychotherapy and some forms of cognitive behavioral therapy, there's still this sense that the sleep disorder is caused by the mental health problem. So you fix the mental health problem, and then the sleep problem will go away. And we learned over the years that that's not true. In fact, on a very simple, straightforward case, we learned and published in JAMA in 2001 that if you treat chronic nightmares in PTSD patients, you will decrease their PTSD symptoms, as well as if you'd given them a medication for PTSD. So ever since then, we've realized and been preaching that you must aggressively look at sleep disorders as independent processes, treat them directly with the best treatments, which are usually, by the way, non-pharmacological, and you will see dramatic improvements in someone's sleep and ultimately their mental health.
That's so interesting. I know when I wake up with a dream, it can linger with me all day, and if it was a disturbing or distressing dream, I'll feel challenged by it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Eh,
That whole field of chronic nightmare assessment and treatment is still trying to blossom, and it hasn't. We had a nightmare treatment symposium in Europe about 7 years ago. The top nightmare treatment experts in the world gathered together, and um, it's unfortunate because this treatment, imagery rehearsal therapy, and its variations, is so powerful. You would like it to spread throughout various communities to be used to treat the problem. Nightmare patients have so much distress, not just during the experience, but the rest of the day, as exactly you're describing. But the one pearl I want to bring out that we learned later on was that those with chronic nightmares had this 70–80% chance or higher of having sleep apnea. And so now there's 9 studies in the scientific literature that have been published in the last 20 years that show if you have nightmares and you treat the sleep apnea, your nightmares are going to improve. How's that for a pretty odd combination?
That's amazing. And I'm wondering what percentage of the population, and I know this is hard to gauge, but what percentage of the population suffers from nightmares? And then what percentage of the population realistically has sleep apnea?
Well, the number of people with nightmares, that's been looked at in several ways by several different research. So it's fairly reliable that amongst adults, we're talking about 4 up to 8% suffer chronic nightmare problems, meaning they have nightmares at least once a week, and the nightmares cause them a problem. Like they don't just brush it off. It's like, no, my day is worse that day, or my sleep was bad that day. In teenagers, we're talking about rates that could be between 15, 20, even higher. And of course, one area that everybody should know about, because it's both interesting and also informative, between the ages of 4 and 6 is when pretty much everybody gets nightmares. And they go through that period because it seems to be a part of learning how to cope with emotion. And so the nightmare is helping you learn how to do that. The question then is how many people in that 4 to 6 range then stop having the nightmares by 7? And what's odd is that a lot of them don't. And those are some of the same people then that are having it as a teenager. And then there's some of the same people that are having it as an adult. So for some of these people, it's actually starting in childhood. And I'll tell you kind of a interesting anecdote on it, that if you ask these people as an adult, when did you first start having nightmares? They say, as a kid. And you go, well, what happened to you? So many of them will say, I either got bit by a dog or chased by a dog. And that was the start of their nightmares. And they can still remember that.
That's interesting. I just got back from a 3-day vitamin symposium, vitamin supplements, and I was with a friend of mine who actually suffers from night terrors, but also shared with me that she's been in a good relationship now for the past 3 years, and she said her night terrors have almost completely gone away. And I know this is a sleep topic show today, but I'm really curious about dreams also, and melatonin and how supplements may affect not only our sleep, but also our dreams. Are there any correlations between like alcohol use and dreams, nightmares, different medications, CBD, cannabis use and dreams? Because I know that I will go through periods where I have not necessarily nightmare, but a dream upon waking almost every morning. And then there'll be times when I don't remember my dreams at all. Does Xanax play into it? Like, give us some correlations here.
Right. Well, we first have to begin with the premise of what is sleep. And in that we're all, because of the way the media portrays things, because of the way much of academia portrays things, and also even many sleep doctors, there's a confusing sense that we should be talking about hours of sleep. Like, how many hours do you get? We all heard that question a million times. But sleep is really about the quality of your slumber, which means what is going on with your brain waves while you're sleeping. It's that simple. It should be that simple, and everybody should be preaching that, because until you look at the premise, which is what is the biology of your sleep, what is actually going on in your sleep, trying to answer any other question can be very misleading, because you're forgetting the fact that, well, what are you treating? Does this person have really great sleep quality, but there's something else going on producing a sleep problem? Like the temperature in their room is off, and so that's causing a sleep problem, but really, otherwise they'd be a good sleeper. So most doctors are not asking their patients that question. That's how so many people end up on sleeping pills or even supplements, because, not to say that supplements can't work, but that the people are saying, well, doctor, I can't sleep. Well, why can't you sleep? Well, I can't fall asleep, or I wake up at night. The doctor is supposed to be saying, Okay, well, why can't you fall asleep? Why do you wake up at night? Why can't you go back to sleep? A skilled sleep doctor knows how to get information out of that, because you're not supposed to wake up at night. You're supposed to be able to sleep through the night. And if you do wake up at night, you're supposed to be able to fall back asleep. This is the premise of what sleep medicine is based on, and it's all about sleep quality. If something is waking you up, then you got to figure out what that is and then treat that so you don't wake up. And of course, what I'm getting at in large part is many people do have physiological problems with their sleep. Now, let me explain one more thing about this physiology before we get into the other parts. Most people don't know, because it's only 10 years old in terms of research, why you sleep is to clean your brain. Your brain actually has to go through a cleansing or washing process through something called the glymphatic system. This research has only been out there for 10 years. This research is so important because it probably links to why people become demented, which is a very big deal. So if your brain does not go through the proper washing, and of course, when does it wash the best? Not only when you're sleeping, but when you're in the deepest possible sleep. So this information tells us that stop focusing on number of hours of sleep, keep digging and finding out why you don't get deep quality sleep.
Okay,
Does
so
that
I want to,
premise
yeah,
make sense?
it that makes perfect sense. So,
Okay.
I was wearing an Aura ring for about 2 years.
Hmm.
It tracked, supposedly tracked my deep sleep and REM sleep and all of that. I got a little annoyed with it, and then stopped working, so I stopped wearing it. I'm curious, do you think that these wearable devices actually work, and can they really tell when we're in deep
Right.
sleep versus REM versus light sleep, or
Yeah.
is it just a marketing gimmick?
Yeah, it's both. It's both. There's aspects to it that we would call, and I don't want to get people confused, qualitative, meaning if you have a wristwatch, whatever, app thing that says deep sleep, not in, light sleep, whatever, that could be true. That could be getting close to the truth. It might even say non-REM REM. Again, it could be getting close. Obviously, getting a sleep test in a lab or a certain kind of home test would be better. But I'll give you a quick example of how these things can be useful. I had someone come to me saying, I'm been using this device. It shows I'm getting fragmented sleep, or my sleep is too light. Do you have any recommendations? And I had this little discussion, and I said, yeah, you probably have some breathing issues. Why don't you try putting on a nasal strip? Use a nasal strip at night for sleep. He used a nasal strip. He came back a week later, said, this is crazy. My app is saying my sleep is getting better, and I actually feel better. So you see, an app like that isn't giving quantitative, great data that way, but qualitatively, it was showing him that using a nasal strip to breathe better, sleep better, and then it shows up on the app. That's a very useful way that these apps can be applied.
Wonderful. Well, that's good news for anybody who is out there and using a wearable device to measure their sleep. I loved what you said. It's not about the number of hours, but the quality. I'm also curious, as a longtime practitioner of yoga and meditation, if you think we can get into those deep brain cleansing states via meditation.
I am not familiar with any research on that topic. It's a great question, because one would think that if you're in a more relaxed state that has some, parallel to the sleep state. Obviously, there's people who meditate and fall asleep. So
Yeah,
you could
I would
argue.
be, I'm one of those people.
Right. So, but see, that could be like a double dose. What if
Right.
the meditation is good, but what if the fact that you're getting into sleep, and perhaps a very restful sleep, and then that allows the glymphatic system to operate again? So that research, to my knowledge, hasn't been done, but definitely should
Actually,
be done.
if you look up yoga nidra, there is research. It's a different type of yoga than your normal flows, but yoga nidra is a discipline of yoga and actually has been tested to do exactly what you're saying and get you in that more recovery state. And they've actually benchmarked some of the recovery similar to deep sleep. So it is something worth looking up, and it's very easy to get online. There's YouTube after YouTube channel of it. So it's worth trying. We did it with our athletes, professional baseball players, and saw a huge recovery, especially on their weird schedules, to be able to get them some completely relaxed state in order to kind of get them back to sleep, especially after being amped up at a game.
Were they able
Sarah,
to
thank you.
measure, were they able to measure the actual depth of the sleep, like stage 3 or
Yes,
what?
yes. There's multiple studies on it. Yeah, yoga
Okay.
nidra, NIDRIA. But it's definitely worth looking into. And again, you wouldn't think a whole room full of professional baseball players in that age group would all be into it. But remarkably, it was still their favorite tool that we ever gave them. And it is really powerful if you have a hard time falling asleep. A lot of people first time will fall asleep during it because it is both a meditation, and then there's a physical aspect, which again is good with those sort of young men. We've worked on it with veterans as well, because they're physically clenching and releasing their muscles while doing the meditation. That physical plus mental part helps them to not just sort of sit and try to get their mind to calm down. The combination is really pretty spectacular, and again, very easy for anyone to get online to try.
Tara, thank you for mentioning that. One of our show sponsors, actually the company that I founded over 25 years ago, YogaFit, yogafit.com, we're coming out with a whole bunch of new yoga nidra programs. So our listeners can save 15% at checkout by using the code Make America Healthy 23 or MAH 23 on checkout. So yeah, yoga, meditation. I also use a brain tap device that puts my brain into theta state. I'm kind of addicted to it. I'm wondering, Dr. Berry, like what are there different, I know there are different stages of sleep also, like how does that intersect with wearing a device that will put you into a gamma state or a theta state?
I don't know if I can give you an answer about that particular device, but the concept of how we fall asleep is very much tied into how we have processed emotions during the daytime.
Oh, interesting.
If not throughout the day. As I like to say, and I've written about many times, insomnia starts first thing in the morning, right when you wake up.
With anxiety, right?
Well, it's not so much that you wake up with anxiety, although you could. It's that as you go about your day, each of us are human and have lots and lots of opportunities to interact with the world, with people, with ourselves, to produce all kinds of thoughts, feelings, and images. And the way we process this information by the end of the day may make us, as Tara was saying, amped up or not amped up. Most people who have difficulty with sleep literally say the words, I can't turn my motor off. I can't stop the engine from running. And that is a function not of what happened when they got into bed. That was happening all day long. And so they had not learned that there is a way to process emotion more comfortably, in a more relaxed way, more honestly, more in the body. And when one does that, there's a much greater chance you come to bed and you literally feel that the day is done. So if a person feels the day is done, then everything that's going to go on in their mind is geared towards, oh, well, I'm looking forward to sleep. I don't have this challenge in front of me. I can't wait to get in bed and fall asleep.
And then a lot of people will wake up, 4 o'clock in the morning and start ruminating also, right?
Correct. And the question, though, becomes, did they wake up from something like a nightmare, which is obvious to them? Or did they wake up, become wide awake, completely alert, and they're sitting there puzzled going, why did this just happen? This doesn't make any sense. So that particular awakening is it's sort of what we call a sign of something must have awakened them with sympathetic activation, meaning simply the nervous system had to have been going fairly fast to bring them to that kind of consciousness. Think about your most typical awakening at night. You're sleepy, or you're tired, or both. You roll over, you go back to sleep. If you have an awakening where you are wide awake from 0 to 60 in a matter of seconds, that means something had to happen to you before the awakening. And we did a study on this and published it in Sleep 10 years ago, where we found people who were insomniacs, not sleepy, not overweight, no breathing symptoms. Nothing about them would suggest an explanation for why they'd wake up. And we asked them all these questions. Why do you wake up at night? And these people were having many, many awakenings during the night. So we put them in the sleep lab. And what do we find? 90% of the time they woke up, a sleep breathing event occurred before the awakening. So what's a sleep breathing event do? Well, it chokes you. It's a mini suffocation. So your heart rate's going to go up, your blood pressure is going to go up, and obviously your brain is going to start going. When you wake up, you don't remember any of that. None of it. Only thing you know is my mind is wide awake. And like you said, ruminating. So it looks like a very psychological process, but it turns out physiology was behind most of it.
Well, I'm going to add one more layer on there, and that is the layer of the spiritual, because there are, in many spiritual belief systems, that 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m. wake up time is the most perfect time to wake up, to meditate, to chant. And I know when I wake up at 4:30 wide awake, like I'm thankful to the universe. I'll do a little meditation, and then I'll get up and I'll do maybe some creative work or some other work that I just don't usually get to tackle during the day. So I welcome those moments. I don't know, again, if it's physiological, if it's psychological, or if it's spiritual, or maybe some great combination of all of the above. Tara, you've got a pretty interesting device that I've had the great fortune of using to help people get more restful sleep. Would you like to tell us a little bit about Sleepme?
Yeah, so I think actually to step back and sort of in agreement with sort of the biophysics of sleep, and a lot of the research we've done, whether it's menopausal women or with veterans and those kind of things, is really getting back to the basics. So the first thing to start with is sleep is a physiological part of our day, as was described, and it does start in the morning because that's when you turn on and off sleep. But when you look at what triggers sleep, not only in humans, but all the way down to the most simplest organisms, yes, your brain tap that you described is trying to align your brain with that sort of frequency and calm you down. But, there's more than just sort of those frequencies. There's temperature, there's sound, your environment. If you, again, don't have a prefrontal cortex or a cortex at all, what tells you to go to sleep is often that light and sound and temperature, and those are the triggers for sleep. So it's really important to remember like where sleep fits in sort of our brain structure and what tells us when it's time to go to sleep and how to stay asleep. So when you wake up in the morning and you're feeling well rested and excited to work on stuff at 4 a.m., it can also just be that that's your clock, and we talk about circadian rhythms and when is a good time, to be at your cognitive best. You do get a burst of cortisol, good cortisol in the morning. So if you're waking up early and you feel that burst and you're feeling inspired spiritually and intellectually, oftentimes that can just be exactly your clock telling you you're an early bird and that you really are, that's some of your best time. And maybe you're even oversleeping and you need to adjust your clock to get that advantage every day. So back to the sort of the most basic parts, what our product does is it really adjusts the temperature of where you sleep. So most people today sleep on a mattress that has some foam in it, a lot of man-made materials. Those are heating up people while they sleep. Our rooms, our environments. I know we were talking before we started about Florida, even versus New York. A lot of those southern states don't get that cold, even with air conditioning. And our bodies really are designed to cool off, especially that first part of night. That's a big part of those triggers to help you release melatonin and go to sleep. Clifford Safier out of Harvard discovered in 2003, so it's not new science, that there is something called a sleep switch, and that is triggered by a change of temperature. It's been backed up by other studies and other things, but you can certainly Google sleep switch and he'll pop up with how that works. So it's really important to get that good deep sleep in the first part of your night being cool. And our product allows you to set the temperature of your mattress, which is where you're sleeping under those covers, and you've created a little cave for yourself by the time you've insulated that in, to make sure your room and your body are allowed to drop 2 degrees core body temperature. So that's what your goal is during sleep, and it helps facilitate that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Love your product. And it's a game changer here in the state of Florida. Dr. Berry, again, I just got back from a vitamin and supplement conference, and there's so much controversy around melatonin. And I got all these different formulations, taking like them all at the same time for sleep, because I tend to have a fair amount of caffeine and other stimulants during the day. So, my sleep issues are probably a lot self-created. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on what the latest research is on melatonin. Is it good? Is it not good? I couldn't seem to get a conclusive answer from all these supplement experts at the show, because everybody has a different opinion. What does science tell us?
Well, in addition to what science tells us, we can also say what the marketplace tells us. Melatonin's been around for so long and so many people use it. The chances that it doesn't do anything or isn't helpful is essentially zero. Things that are placebos don't really last. If you're using something and you say, I think it gives me benefit, and you've used it that way for X number of months or years, more than likely you're getting benefit. It is a compound that's, as Tara is saying so eloquently about the way this system works, where you secrete the melatonin, the body temperature starts to drop. And of course, it's known that amongst insomniacs that they can't get their body temperature to drop. And so that's part of their problem. So the issue with melatonin, though, is the dosing, the type of patient, who needs it, who can benefit from it. And unfortunately, lots of research hasn't been done. There is a product, one out there, I'm not affiliated with it, but I know that REM-Fresh is an extended release melatonin. So there's probably more extended release melatonins out there now based on what they did, because they did a randomized placebo-controlled study with REM-Fresh, and they showed that it actually worked in treating insomnia. So there's no question that there's some products that work, but there's probably some products that aren't that good, or it's the wrong dosage, or you don't really know what's in there.
Yeah.
And that is an issue. But other things about melatonin, researchers are beginning to experiment with use of melatonin in trying to treat restless legs and leg jerks. They've actually speculated on the possibility of whether it could work in a very peculiar disorder called REM sleep behavior disorder. And we definitely know people are trying it in places where there is jet lag. And then in the original research, it was elderly people who had diagnosed deficiency of melatonin, that it would be beneficial for them. So melatonin has a lot of possibilities. The question is, what is the marketplace actually offering, and how do you know? And so that's where it's a bit difficult for the consumer.
And then also, how much is too much? I know that if I can take maybe 3 milligrams of melatonin and be okay. But if I took like 10, I feel like I'm in a coma the next day. Much like I once took a pill of gabapentin, and I felt like I was in a coma for the entire day. And yet some people I know can take, hundreds of milligrams of that and be fine. So it's interesting what our bodies also adapt to over time, and then perhaps become dependent on. When I travel, I have used Xanax to sleep. Also very careful not to become Xanax dependent, because I think that can become a habit that is not a good one. So would you like to share, Dr. Berry, some of the supplements that you advocate for when it comes to sleep? I've taken everything from tryptophan to 5-HTP, obviously melatonin, magnesium, and again, there's so many compound products out there right now. I'm in possession of a lot of them because I just got back from this show.
Right. Well, I recommend you take the supplements that work.
And that's a lot of trial and error and making yourself into a guinea pig. Yes.
Right. But I actually think that that's not such a bad idea, because I think that is sort of the way most people have come to supplements. It's great when you meet a practitioner who says, well, I've done all this and you can do this, and that's fine. If they have that expertise, and I do not have that expertise, only in a few areas can I comment on it. I'll mention that in a second. But a person who's in that, a more natural medicine approach, and they say, these are the supplements. I just question, like, is their basis really, this is going to work? Or is it really, we're going to try this and do trial and error with you, but you've got somebody guiding you who's a professional. So that could be a good thing. But generally people do trial and error. The area that I'm most familiar with that I think is very interesting, because it's a big disorder, especially as you get older, restless legs and leg jerks.
I have a friend who just told me, and I don't even know if she's 50, and she's just told me like she has restless leg syndrome. My first response was, well, I guess you need to move your body a little bit more. But I mean, restless leg syndrome, I guess, is it really a thing? Or is it just because people are not being active enough and their bodies are saying, hey, we want to move?
Well, that's a different area where absolutely we're not active enough.
Right.
We spend way too much time sitting or being, not active, and
Yes.
activity is fantastic because of the circulation. Restless legs is a very real thing, and restless legs is the condition you have while you are awake. You have uncomfortable sensations in your legs, but leg jerks, that's the biggie, because it means your legs move while you're sleeping, and that means your sleep then is fractured. You literally get arousal or awakenings from these leg movements.
That sounds like Tourette's for the body.
Well, a little bit more rhythmical than Tourette's. And I know personally, because I've had restless legs pretty much my whole life. My doctor back in the 1950s said that's growing pains, because they didn't really know what it was. It's not really been that big of a deal for me. But then just a few years ago, my restless legs got worse in the form of the leg jerks. So I had to go on trial and error with certain medications. And I now have used, over the last several years, the medication L-tyrosine,
yes.
which is an amino acid supplement. And there's been research that was attempted on this, never been published, but there was research attempted on this, and we don't know why it was never published. But many people have tried L-tyrosine. At our sleep center, before we sold it, we had about 25 people who were diagnosed with a leg jerk problem and refused to take a medication. And we said to them, would you like to try this supplement? We don't know for sure if it works, but it's a precursor to dopamine, and dopamine agonists, Mirapex, Requip, these are the drugs that many people use for leg jerks. So many people took the L-tyrosine and they got benefit from it. I currently use a combination of a gabapentin drug called Horizont. It's a long-acting variation of gabapentin, and L-tyrosine.
So is that a pharmaceutical product you're using there, or is it natural GABA?
No, it's a pharmaceutical project called Horizont.
Okay.
And it's based on the idea of, a GABA receptor, or the GABA system. And the L-tyrosine is based on a system based, dopaminergic.
Right. I'm going to do a little plug for yoga now, because yoga is the only thing that actually makes the body release GABA naturally. And I think that for anyone suffering with restless leg syndrome, yoga would probably be a great thing for them to do. But thank you for sharing that. Tara, if you're going to design a perfect sleep situation for anyone, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I think to go back to your sort of trial and error, it is intimidating for a lot of people, but we are all really different. And so there's a spectrum. None of us are exactly the same. And that really becomes sort of the problem with any sort of, whether it's vitamins or supplements or even pharmaceuticals, we, no one can say with certainty that this is exactly what's going to work for you, because you're different than the person right next to you. None of us would probably need exactly the same thing. So trial and error is just owning your own health outcomes and making sure that if you go to try a supplement, the recommendation is to start with one and, take it over the course of at least 10 days and take notes and be your own best scientist. Because when we own our health like that, we will find the solutions, but relying entirely on someone else is obviously, it depends on their expertise, as Dr. Berry mentioned, but it is really important that our health is in our hands, and every day you sort of invest that time in it is absolutely worth it. So
yeah, we couldn't agree with you more. That's what Make America Healthy is all about. It's giving the listeners the information so that they can really do more trial and error, try new things, experiment, know all of your options. Because when it comes to your health, whether it's your sleep health or your physical health, your mental health, truly the one with the most options wins. And I love to experiment on myself with taking different supplements, doing different things, whether it's a plant medicine or anything else. Because there's, that's the fun part of life, is that there are so many different paths that we can take to make ourselves healthier physically, mentally, spiritually, and energetically. But sometimes we don't know what all those paths are. And I believe that on top of that, it's very helpful to maintain an open mind and a willingness to keep trying different things until you find something that works for you.
Well said. Well said.
And, when you look at the perfect sleep environment, it's not that different. We work with a wide variety of different people when it comes to sleep coaching. And so, but it's important to sort of remember there is a framework. So when you look at your environment, we're often think about sleep most when we think about sleeping like a baby. But when you look at our childhood, most people will have a routine that they went through with their parents. The sound, the smell, the temperature of the room, all of those things are still in our head. And oftentimes, if you're struggling to figure out where is a good place to start, how did you sleep really well as a child is one of the first places to go back to. Another popular product that we've had with the athletes, and it sounds silly, is putting lavender spray. So you can train your brain to sleep well. And amazingly, hotel rooms smell often like carpet fresh or something weird. And so when they were traveling, just putting lavender spray on their pillow, both at home and when they're traveling, it means then their bed smells like home. And so, and similarly, when it comes to what sound do they want to hear, a lot of it is on how do you make a hotel room, which isn't your house, because your house is easy to dial into whatever you want, but, train your brain to what is a soundscape to fall asleep in. There's different kinds of noises, there's different kinds of music, whatever that is that helps you drown out the other environment and say, this is my environment for sleeping. But think about all of those unconscious triggers for sleep that your mother or father or some combination, whoever your caregiver was, probably put into place when you were a child. When we go back to thinking about you were calm, you read a book, you were tucked in, you felt safe, and it smelt and felt like home. Creating that consistent environment and that consistent routine really helps sleep, and it helps you go wherever you have to go and travel with, if you know what those triggers are. And so it's all different for different people. I couldn't say, without talking to you longer, this is exactly the right temperature for you. This is exactly the right sound or light. But each of us kind of knows, if we really sort of ask ourselves, do I need a completely black room? Some people do, other people don't. Entirely, it's not as important for them. Maybe the sound or the smell or the temperature is for them. But again, back to that sort of trial and error, design the space that is the best for you at home. And the ideal part, if you travel a lot, is to try to make sure that what you're training your brain to do at home, you can take on the road with you to the best of your ability, because that will help you sleep no matter where you are.
Great. Thank you for that. I like weighted blankets. I use the blue blocker if I'm going to be on the computer or watch television late at night, using some blue blocker glasses to block the rays. I've also found to be very helpful. Taking a hot shower before bed, making sure you've moved your body enough that day, maybe doing a little light meditation, some meditation music before you go to sleep, or using a device like the brain tap. So many different things that we can do. And like you said, setting up that schedule of consistency with triggers, good triggers, very helpful.
And one,
yes.
one little one that you mentioned, the soul before. In our religion, we call that the neshama. And at bedtime in the Jewish religion, there's a prayer that you say that's very, very informative, because it's asking you to forgive anybody who's done, or that you forgive anybody who's done something to you that day. And just think about
Can you share? Yeah, that's beautiful. It's like, I guess it's like the Jewish Aponopono,
it's
which
called
is
the bedtime Shema.
the Hawaiian prayer, Aponopono, I think it's called. Would you like to? And it's the Jewish holidays tonight, Dr.
Rosh
Berry.
Hashanah,
So
right.
yeah, so would you like to share that prayer with all of us?
Well, no, I can't, because it's too long.
Oh, okay.
It's way too long. The start of the prayer is the Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuso Leolam Va'ed. That's the beginning of the prayer. We say that also in the morning.
Can one recite, if one wanted to? Could one recite the English version of that, or does it have to be done in Hebrew?
Well, generally, you do it in Hebrew. Obviously,
Okay.
somebody could say it in English. But what I was getting at is that is implying something again about this emotional issue.
Right.
If you forgive everybody through, you've had some, whatever it was during the day, that's a very impactful thing to your whole mind, body, and spirit, that is preparing you for sleep, because you're letting go of these things that you don't really need to be hanging on to.
Right.
So I do think I agree with you completely that the spiritual aspect of sleep is very much underrated and not really delved into. I also want to comment just that I think Tara's explanations of so many things here, I want to give her an honorary doctorate. She's like doing this stuff in medicine now. We call this personally tailored medicine, and she's describing all of that to a T. So Tara, I really want to compliment you for the way you put out this information.
Thank you.
Great. Any final words from either one of you for our listeners who are struggling with sleep? And again, there are so many, if you're a woman 40 plus, you could be going through premenopause, perimenopause. Sleep starts to get disturbed for women past a certain point in life. If you're taking too many energy drinks, like coffee and supplements, your sleep can definitely get disturbed. I have a lot of questions about CBD and THC, and if they really help with sleep or if they don't. Alcohol's relationship with sleep, because I know that, if you do have too many glasses of wine, you're going to wake up in the middle of the night. So yeah, any final thoughts from either one of you before we move towards the end of the show? Please take this time now.
Go ahead, Dr. Berry. You go first.
So I have a new book out, Life-Saving Sleep, New Horizons in Mental Health Treatment. All that we've been, not all, but much of what we've been discussing is in that book, and it's very much geared towards individuals who've been struggling with their sleep for a while. They notice mental health symptoms along the way, anxiety, depression, PTSD, and often these individuals are not getting sleep help. They're getting psychiatric help, they're getting psychotherapies, they're meeting with psychologists, they're meeting with lots of different people, but usually the topic is not addressed as, well, we can do this for your sleep. So sleep doctors, and I'm also doing sleep coaching. I think Tara mentioned she's doing sleep coaching. Sleep coaching or other resources people can use that help people understand this field. It's just not really being well expressed in the healthcare profession, even among sleep doctors. Many people go to sleep doctors and walk away confused. This is why sleep coaching is becoming a big thing. But I really do think it's important for people to understand, last point, that if they want to make the most progress solving a sleep problem, they've got to figure out what is going on with the quality of their sleep. And from there, it will open up many doorways.
Great. Dr. Barry, please let us know what your website is. I know you're in
Sure.
Savannah because I'm thinking about getting in the car and driving up to be treated by you.
Well, we can
You
do
might
Zoom.
you might see me at your door.
Well, we can also do Zoom telehealth appointments. We do that as well if that's more convenient. But happy to have you if you want to come up.
Well, I would like to go into a lab, I think, and have my sleep 100% studied. I've not done that, and it sounds very interesting.
Right. So my website is barrykrakowmd.com. And then I also have a free Substack newsletter for anybody who wants to sign up. I post on there about once a week. It's called fastasleep.substack.com.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I'm very much looking forward to reading your life-saving sleep book. Tara, tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, so I have a book as well. So we'll have hopefully you can get both because they probably have slightly different views on it. Mine is Reprogram Your Sleep. And you can find me at tarayoungblood.com. But just to echo as a final thought, we talk a lot, our athletes are sort of making big money and they're talking about financial investments. But if you think about sort of the idea of health span and you think about how to invest in yourself, there's really no value in having this sort of big cachet of money if you don't have your mental and physical health by the time you get there. And sleep is absolutely what unlocks those superpowers as you get older. The sleep you get now and the sleep you get later is so critical in maintaining that cognitive and physical health. It touches every aspect, and every disease of the elderly is attached to this lack of sleep. So when you think about spending time on anything for your health, all of it's good, but sleep is just that foundational piece. And it really is something to invest in. It doesn't mean you have to buy lots of products. It means you need to spend time and respect sleep and give your body what it needs. And so when you look at all health and wellness, if you're struggling to get past a plateau, go back and look at your sleep and see if your sleep and your quality of sleep, as Dr. Barry mentioned, is good. Because if you are not sleeping well, you will plateau. You won't be able to get past those other health metrics. It is absolutely the key to all of those things over the course of our lifetime.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We would also like to thank the sponsors of our show that make this show possible. We'd like to thank Life Boost Coffee, which is an amazing line of coffee. It is mold-free, toxin-free, pesticide-free. It's ethically grown. They pay their farmers a decent wage. They have so many great flavors. My favorite is the dark mocha roast. We are coming out with a mindfulness blend of Life Boost coffee powered by YogaFit. It's a half calf blend. So they've got decaf, they've got regular, it's organic, it's fabulous. And if you would like to try Life Boost coffee and save at checkout, you can use the code YogaFit10 to save at lifeboostcoffee.com. Again, check out their coffees. There's such a difference, much like sleep. There's difference in having a good quality coffee versus some swill. And as someone who travels a lot and spends a lot of time making like coffee in hotel rooms, I can tell you that Life Boost coffee, whether you're bringing small bags on the road in single serve packages, or you're brewing up a giant French press pot at home like I do on the weekends, it's great coffee and the quality of your coffee matters. So check out lifeboostcoffee.com and save 10% at checkout with the code YogaFit10. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, YogaFit Training Systems Worldwide, the leader in yoga, mind, body, fitness education for over 25 years with conferences, online trainings, and events, including mind, body, fitness conferences. We've got a great one coming up in Palm Springs in January that I look forward to every year. You can also save 15% at checkout by using the code VOICE15. or voice23@yogafit.com, featuring corporate wellness and pretty much one-stop shopping for anything yoga, mind, body related. So again, thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to our fabulous guests. What an informative show on sleep. I have many more questions, and we're going to have you both back. And if you enjoyed this show, please share it. Until next time, everyone, stay healthy, stay happy, and get a great night's sleep. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much. We'll have all of your contact information put in the show notes, and we will be sending you out when the show's going to air. It airs everywhere. So just look for that or email from Lisa.
Great.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Great.
It was
Thank you
great
so
meeting
much.
Dr. Barry.
to
Yeah,
meet
Dr.
you.
Barry,
Good.
I want to come and see you sooner than later. I'm going to email you.
Very good.
All right. Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care.
Have a good
Bye.
day, everyone. Bye.